Hey everyone, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Well, it's at 5.3. I'm taking it apart still. So I figured today what we're going to do is we're going to work on getting the harmonic balancer off and getting the oil pan off and getting the camshaft out of it, the time chain stuff like that off of it. And let's take a look at that aspect of this motor. I'm still not certain if it's a 5.3 or a 4.8. Pretty sure it's a 5.3. Excuse me. It's got dished pistons, which I believe is a 5.3. I believe if it's a flat top, it'd be 4.8 liter. Anyway, so let's pull this harmonic balancer off. And I don't plan on ever running a supercharger or anything like that on this. In order to do so, on a lot of these, the harmonic balancer presses on and there's no keyway. It can go on in any infinite position that you want it to. If I was to put a supercharger on it, a belt-driven supercharger, there's a tool where you actually have to drill a hole through the crankshaft and pin the actual harmonic balancer to it. So this way there's no chance of it turning because of the amount of power a supercharger takes up. So, like I said, on this it can go in any infinite position. Unless somebody had already installed a supercharger on it, then that would change things. But this doesn't have that. If I were to do it, then I'd have to do it. But anyway, so let's get on to this real quick. So here is the motor. You're going to need a 3-jaw puller similar to this. What this does is it grabs around the harmonic balancer, and as you can see, it has these flat notches. So these fingers will go inside. Hold on a second. Let me put you into a holder here real quick. These fingers will go inside. I'm obviously not taking it out yet because I still have the bolt in place. So the fingers will go around and see that? It'll catch that. There's a couple different designs of this, styles of this. I believe you can rent this from the local parts store if you needed to. So let me go ahead and let me pull that big bolt out. And that is a 24 millimeter, I think. Yeah, 24 millimeter. As you see, Pittsburgh. All right. Just putting you in my holder. So you can watch what I'm doing. Where'd I put my gun? I'll put it up here. Alright. And the bolt comes right out. These, I believe, are single-use only bolts. But like I said, I don't throw anything out until I'm done. So now, what I also do is, inside the center, sometimes you can put the bolt back on and leave it hanging out a little bit. I have this handy dandy tool I made up from a 3/8 extension many years ago for use on like Dodge Neons and Chrysler 2.4 liter, 2.0 liters. And this works perfectly on many different applications because it bottoms out in the crank, basically on the crankshaft itself. It bottoms out, so this way you're not running the end of your tool, this end, into the threads. You want to avoid that because you'll destroy the crankshaft. So with that in place, let's get the tool in place. So you spread the fingers out. Now in this style tool, once you get the tool actually in place, you thread it. Let's see if I can actually show you this. Don't know if I can. Let's see. You actually start to thread this in as far as you can. Now this thing will just make it on this motor. I've done this before. I should actually have a longer tool. Like I said, you can actually use the bolt that holds the harmonic balancer in place. You got to thread it in like say 5, 6, 7 turns, and then you start to pull this out. And then obviously once you hit the end where it bottoms out onto the bolt, you want to stop. All right. So now, that's on there and tight. See that? Just like that down there. So that's the tool, that silver part, or the that extension that I made up as a stopper. Oops. Sorry about that. So now, the nice thing about this tool is it has this collar. So once you're kind of in place, you tighten up on this collar, and it locks the fingers so the fingers don't come outward, because otherwise the fingers could come out and you can actually ruin the piece you're trying to save, or take off. So this is a 16 millimeter or a 5/8, and where did I put my gun? Right here. Like I said, the tool just makes it. Oops, sorry about that. As you can see, it just makes it. So, loosen up this collar so the fingers will come out, or the arms, or legs, or toes, whatever you want to refer to them as, and then you take the tool off. And that's it. This piece is off. What you want to do too is inspect here for any grooves. There's no real groove, so you want to do is take a Scotch-Brite and clean that up. So we're just going to put that to the side for now. Put that down. And now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this motor over and we're going to take the pan off. Okay, so now with the engine upside down, hopefully you have rags and stuff handy in case there's anything residual laying around inside the motor, which will drip out. Even though this thing's completely empty, I'm sure there's residual somewhere that's going to start coming out. So now what you want to do is take all the pan bolts off. All the way around. You have these super long ones in the back corners here. And the oil filter's on this thing too. So you just want to take all of this stuff out of the way so you can get those off. So let me walk you through that real quick. Might be a little difficult for me to show you every aspect of this. Let me see what I can do. You know, like I said, I have this DeWalt stuff only because I won this, but I like the DeWalt guns to the point where I bought it for myself at work. You know, since I do this professionally. For home, yeah, I would have no problem with Harbor Freight tools. It's just I kind of don't need them, so I haven't bought any. Although I don't have a 3/8, I'm going to need to buy a 3/8. Just don't have one as of yet. And then I got to, clean this whole area up. Kind of have a little bit of a mess going. See what I said? Those bolts are super long in the back corners. See that? So just something to keep in mind. Now I think that's all the bolts for the oil pan. Could be wrong, but I think it is. Now, because the oil pan holds the filter too, sometimes you'll get oil leaking out that way. So, oh, what a mess. Hang on. Look at that. Look at that mess. Oh boy. Yeah. All right. That's nasty. How about this? Look at that grossness. Look at this. This is the bracket for the dipstick. What in the... All right. Well, that's disgusting. All right. That was unexpected. All right. I have some pig mats, absorber mats. Let me go get those ready and put on the ground here, because this thing will eventually make it to the ground and start dripping out. So as you saw, that was just completely unexpected. So I got a funny feeling the bearings are going to be toasted too. I can only assume. I don't know. Well, I mean, I pulled the drain plug out and nothing came out because it's gelatin. Why is it gelatin? I have no idea. At least I got another 5.3 in there. Maybe we'll do this video with that 5.3 and hopefully get better results. Let me take the timing cover off of this thing and let's get the cam out of this. I can't wait to see what it looks like under the timing cover. Hopefully not like this. So, all right, let's get that going. All right, let's try this again. I still can't. Drop some tools. I still can't get over that. Let's see what awaits us under here. Oh, left the bolt. Actually, not that bad. All right. Yeah, so this is your oil pump right here. So I'm going to unbolt the pump, take that off, and I don't know if I have high hopes of it being any good. Let me get a rag. Hang on a second. All right, so the the oil pump tube is actually held onto the motor in a few spots. So what I'm going to do is unbolt it first. Thankfully, I wasn't planning on using any of these actual parts. I mean, a dipstick tube and that, or oil pump pickup and that, yeah. So obviously, it'll have to get cleaned really well. What a mess. It's just a gigantic mess. I have a pad up top on one of my shelves that I'm using. Alright, I have this. I believe those are 10s that hold the pump in place. Now what I'm going to show you also at some point in time, oh yeah, the tube where it actually bolts to the pump, it's 110. So I'm going to take the pump off the tube, or tube off the pump I should say, if it'll come off. Now this point is actually a very popular point for, there's an O-ring that goes in here and it's actually stuck in here. This O-ring is notorious for failing. When they fail, you wind up with low oil pressure. So now the pump itself just comes right off. So we're going to rebuild this pump. Hopefully it's salvageable. I don't know if it is. Now, let's see. I'm just going to take the cam gear off. Those are 10s also. Gotta wipe my hands off because I hate getting oil and grease all over my tools. I can all avoid it. Obviously, sometimes you can't avoid it. Now these chains, if you notice, there is slop in the chain. They're notorious for having slop in the chain. It's kind of how they're designed. I don't agree with it, but that's how they are. So I'm just going to drop that on the floor. And then there's a plate there. Can you even see that? There's a plate here, retainer plate, that holds the cam in place. Sorry. Let me see if I can get you closer. Let me unbolt this plate. A lot of times when you do a cam, you replace this thrust plate too, because it does get wear on it. Just like that. Okay. And it does, oh, I should have shown you that. Get the head out of the way here. There is a gasket on here, an impregnated O-ring basically. So you should replace this. Don't just silicone it back together because that's oil pressure behind this. So now, I don't recall, it's been so darn long. I don't remember if it's threaded on the inside of the cam or not. I think it might be, but I'm not positive. Let me investigate that a little bit, and we'll get right back to it, and we'll get the cam out. Oh, actually, you weren't seeing it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you were not even seeing it. But yeah, the cam, I believe the center of the cam, I pulled this plate off. I don't know what you didn't see there, but I pulled this plate off. The retainer plate, thrust plate for the cam, I pulled that off. I was explaining how you got to replace these. So let me find out. I can't remember if these cams are threaded on the inside there to help pull them out and install them. But let's find out. Hang on a second. Okay, so from what I can tell, the center is not threaded. But what you do is, instead of just using the cam gear bolts, just get a longer bolt. Put on there. They actually make a holder that'll bolt onto this to make your life easier installing it. But I'm not having high hopes that the cam bearings are going to be okay. So now, slide this out slowly and easily. Because if you go nutty trying to pull this thing out, you could damage the cam bearings in the process because you're hitting them with cam lobes and stuff as you're coming out. So just be mindful of that as you're coming out. And then, of course, as it comes out, you get better support of the cam itself coming out. And there it is. It's actually out. And amazingly enough, the cam itself doesn't look bad. But we're going to just stand this cam up on its end here, because nobody, including my grandkids, are supposed to be coming in here when I'm not here. But you know how that goes. Let me just wipe this cam bearing down and take a look at it. And here's the amazing thing. I took one of my 6 liters apart, and the cam bearing looked horrible. And the inside of the motor was clean. The cam bearings looked horrible. This actually looks pretty good. Just take my gloves off. Thanks, Greg Versace. Appreciate the gloves. They come in handy. But here, oops, let me turn the light on. Those cam bearings look darn good. All right. So as far as I can tell, we are not going to have to take a trip to the machine shop, which is good because I kind of wanted to do this just in my driveway. Obviously, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be using that oil pan or not, but I'm going to clean it out anyway because it's just disgusting. I got to get some kind of a container to hold that goo, or I'm just going to have to use like gasoline or something along those lines. If you're using gasoline or anything combustible, obviously be careful. But I might use something like that and do this at work. This way I can dump it into the large container that we have there for waste oil. That's actually supposed to be getting picked up like Tuesday or Wednesday because we're almost full. So, all right. Well, I just thought I'd show you that part. I mean, this is amazingly dirty at the bottom. I don't know why it sludged up like that at the bottom. The motor's been sitting for I pulled it out about 3 years ago. It's been sitting on a stand ever since. But I'm pretty confident I probably drained the oil when I had it on a lift. Because I had it on a lift when I pulled it out. That's something I always do. Whenever I disassemble something like that, I'm going to pull the motor out. Because I don't want to have it to where it accidentally tips over, something happens, anything happens. And then all of a sudden you wind up with an oil mess wherever you have it. So I always try to empty them out. So I'm pretty confident I drained the oil. So yeah, so now the next video, which I'll be doing in another day, I'm not going to get into that one today. The next video I'm going to make is going to be on that, taking the crank and inspecting the main bearings and rod bearings and stuff like that, because I got to pull the crank out anyway, because I want to pull the pistons out, clean up all the rings, and I want to put ring gap in this thing. This way I can use nitrous on this motor. All right, that's about it. Hopefully you get something out of my videos. Hopefully you enjoyed that mess. All right, well, anyway, hopefully you're getting something out of my videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.